this is Mike making my video to add to my collection. Basically, it's 4/17/2025 and it's roughly 4:30 a.m. Um, basically, I'm making this video to talk about manifestation and the nature of what reality truly is. Uh, I have been studying this subject for many years, and finally I came to the conclusion that I figured it out. Uh, our mind is about 200,000 times or more powerful than the most powerful supercomputer in the world. And, with that being said, um, it's capable of doing a lot of things. And, reality itself uh, is, an integral part of our mind. So the inside becomes like the outside. Reality itself, the nature of reality, uh, is more or less uh, directly in contact or connected, to our minds. And with that being said, there really is no distinction between the dream state and our waking state. So you know the emergence of reality, reality itself is a hallucination of the mind. And it's an outward expression, the emergent state that we're in. A waking state is an emergence of our mind. And, so, being, let's say, under the influence of some kind of drug, sometimes it either, basically makes your waking state, basically the reality becomes affected by that. And thus, I mean, it's really just a simulation. That's really what it is. Uh, there is no difference between, uh, your dream state and the waking state. It's just, I think what it is, you have more of your faculties dedicated, to the waking state when you're awake. And, the dream state is, basically when you have a lucid dream, it's almost indistinguishable from this state that we're in. And, like Jesus would even say that if, you fornicate with a woman in your heart, there's no difference between doing it in real life and doing it in your heart. So, what that meant by your heart is your heart was actually considered the brain back in the day. And it actually, your emotional aspect of your mind is what, they consider to be your heart. But anyway, the long story short is it's, the subconscious mind, you can fool it and trick it into believing that something's real. And once you do that, then you have control over the objective universe. So, the universe itself is a projection of the subconscious in the conscious mind. So, as a defense mechanism, more or less, basically a survival mechanism. Um, your conscious mind creates an ego, and it gives you a reality that basically is all around you. And you basically, let's say, have this notion that you're somebody that's important, uh, more so than everybody else in the world. And that's not always case typical, but yeah, of course, some people are greater than others. But with that being said, some people have an inflated ego, and like a narcissist or whatever. But the thing is you have this ego, and this ego basically you have to annihilate. And once you destroy the ego, then you humble yourself, and then what your subconscious mind does, it releases DMT, and then or your mind itself releases DMT, and both sides of your mind become at peace with each other, and then you're using your full mind. And usually what happens after basically the dark night of the soul, you basically have a lot of energy, and then of course what goes down must come up, and then your mind actually produces DMT, and then what DMT does is a psychoactive element, and then it helps uh, the neural networks and stuff like that. So your mind is actually on turbo boost, and then more or less uh, you start to see things and hear things that most people can't see or hear. That's not always the case. I mean, there are people that are capable of that, and then if you perform a miracle, if there's other people around, an audience or whatever, then they become privy to what you're doing, and you reveal the hidden things to them. Some people see it, some people don't. So anyway, you see spirits, you walk through walls, ceilings opened up, you cause earthquakes, you start fires, freeze things, you work with fire and ice, and of course all the mythological creatures you can imagine. And a lot of these creatures, I wouldn't say all of them, but a part of them are actually manifestations of the mind. And a lot of these people that are, let's say, part of your grand delusion, the illusion. There's the illusion of the self, but you destroy the self, and then what that does is it opens your mind up, and the universe responds. So it's a survival mechanism. So you're able to do things that most people can't do, and a lot of the creatures and beings and stuff like that, the elementals that are involved in your newfound uh, identity, a lot of times those are NPCs, and they're computer generated, and that's really what we are, is we're computer generated. So I might observe somebody, and then they become the subjective, something objective. But to them, I'm the objective, and they're subjective, and then to them, they're the objective, and I'm the subjective. So, in essence, it's really a flip flop, and even though these NPCs, some of them are intelligent, some of them aren't, and there's a whole world that's associated with this world, but it's hidden. And then, of course, once you tap into this, you leave this world and you go into that world. They're two states of being. They're two parallel universes, and you more or less cross over, you see things that, people, most people can't see or hear. You got eyes to see and ears to hear. And, you have to have a certain degree of vibration to enter into these states. And you have to have the right mindset. So anything that's limiting in your belief system, will stop you from entering in. But if you have an open mind and you have a lot of energy and you direct all that energy like a laser beam instead of a floodlight, you're focused and you focus on that one goal, and then what happens is the wave function collapses, and then you're able to see the hidden things, and because you understand and you can see the hidden things. So really, that's all it is a simulation, and there really isn't any real difference from what's going on the inside of your head and what's going on the outside of your head. So in your dream state, if you're capable of having, really profound dreams that are realistic, I mean, then you wake up and there's really no distinction between the two. It's just, sometimes your conscious mind is more powerful, it's the master, and then the subconscious mind is the slave. But then again, it could be converse, where you're more creative than you are rational. So anyway, long story short, it's just a computer generated image. And your mind is the computer, and everything around you that's associated with you, that's attached to you, basically is an outpicturing, of what is going on the inside. It's a mirror reflection of what's going on the inside, so the inside becomes like the outside. So the universe itself is a reflection of yourself, and you're a reflection of it. They're interwoven and they're connected. So, anyway, I've really racked my mind, and I've really tried to understand and figure these things out, and then finally I got to the point where it finally clicked. I was able to understand and know that everything around you is basically an illusion. And even in Scripture, God says, "I will give him a powerful delusion." God being your mind, the Alpha, and the universe being the Omega. But the inside becomes like the outside, so they're equal. And the slave is never greater than its master. And my subconscious mind, the Queen of Heaven, is with me, the creative side, the foolish side, and of course my rational side. So they say God's foolishness is greater than man's wisdom. They're really saying that the creative side is more powerful than the rational side. And, it's when they become equal and they're both working towards the same goal and they're at peace with each other, then you can move mountains. So anyway, it's like beating a dead horse. I keep going on about this, and it's because I'm passionate about it. But the thing is, I got to the point in life, where I pretty much figured out there's really nothing more after this. There's the spirit life and the spirit realm, but really, even in that, some spirits are very miserable. They're very depressed, and a lot of times, like the Watchers or whatever, they desire to be physical, and the physical desires to be spiritual. But the funniest thing about it is we're truly spiritual beings in a physical body, and there really is no distinction between the spiritual and the physical. I mean, the physical, if you ask me, is a greater glory. And God gives you everything perfectly right up front. So anyway, I'm more a scientist than anything. I'm not so much religious anymore. I guess you could say I'm kind of a existentialist / atheist.